speaking of death, because I want to hear your Philly thing, but I'll go a little retroactive if you don't mind, and talk about my experience why I missed last week's podcast. As we know, I went and got the COVID vaccine, and so
the J&J,
the Johnson & Johnson one.
2 dicks.
Comedian Casey Balsham, former guest, lover, she told me where she got the Johnson & Johnson one, because most of them are like you show up and you don't know what you're going to get, so good luck. And this one, she was like, this was the exact place that I got it, so you should try going here. So I look up the address, I find it, I get an appointment for Erica and I. We're going the next day. It's only afterwards that I realize, oh my God, it's in Brownsville, which, first off, if people don't know Brownsville, Brooklyn, it's one of the only, like, people that thought of Brooklyn before Brooklyn became, now everyone when you say Brooklyn, people think Williamsburg. But back when you would think of Brownsville, like, that used to be old Brooklyn. That was like people getting shot, people getting stabbed. That's still Brownsville. Brownsville, East New York.
It's kind of a racist name, but they named it before.
Yeah, it's true. Brownsville, East New York, and the Bronx and parts of the Bronx are like the 3 places that old New York City still exists in terms of very violent, regular crime that's happening. So we have to go to Brownsville, but
now that's just Chelsea. Like, now that's everywhere. You walk around Manhattan and it's just unmedicated maniacs that are just threatening headbutts and, trying to grab your dick.
So we're driving in Brownsville, and immediately you're starting to go, you're realizing again this it's the least, I guess, the least surprising thing in the planet, but just the disparity between how the city treats, neighborhoods where it's 99% people of color versus other areas. I was even saying even the left turn lane, it has it always on the ground, it always has the big arrow, and then it says like left only. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that was visible was the N and the L in the only. And the others had just worn off years ago and never been repainted.
There's a reason why cops are speeding through Brownsville with their sirens on, and it's not to stop crime, it's to blow through every light to get the fuck out of Brownsville.
Yeah. So it is, whatever, it's a tough area, but we're getting a shot at a police priest at a community center that they have to, for like underprivileged youth to try and get them off streets and stuff like that.
Like yourself.
Yeah, like me. So that I'm not like, and it's also 11 a.m. So it's not like we're going at 9 at night or something where I wasn't actually worried at all. I just was like, oh shit, like the area, especially the area that we were in is like, there's just like fiberglass and garbage all over the sidewalks and stuff. So we're on this line, we have an appointment, but the line ends up being 2 hours long. And so as we're waiting in line, we're getting closer, but we're on a sidewalk and there's, apartment buildings next to it. And there's just a long fucking line of people waiting. And outside one of the apartments, it was like not a basement apartment, but it was like a ground floor apartment that kind of dipped down. You'd have to like walk a couple steps down into it, like a sunken in one. And there's, at one point in the line, Eric and I are standing there and we just hear someone just yelling at the top of their lungs. And I do a thing where I look over and there's a woman banging on the window, filming us, pointing at it, being like, fucking white people. And then she's like recording on her phone, just being like, they don't believe us. Like she's like screaming. I don't know what she's screaming about.
They don't believe it. Oh,
yeah,
no.
but she's like and then Eric and I are like, okay, because we can't get off the line. We can't move forward to get out of her vision. So we're just taking this verbal assault.
But I get why it's aimed at you. Because you are,
but I also have a hoodie on. I'm wearing sweatpants.
That
I'm like
cloaks you from reality.
yeah.
But Erica looks. I mean, she could be Dominican.
Yeah,
for all they know.
When she's tan, people are confused. But they're just screaming at us, like hitting it. She's like, "Get the fuck out of here!" Like screaming, banging on the thing. Which I'm like, wish I could. And so we're doing that thing. We're just slowly moving up, like an inch at a time. Like, could you guys actually just move up? Just like even a foot would be great, And then the next people behind us are getting screamed at, and we're like, Jesus. And you're just sitting there, it's so terrifying. So we go all the way around. 2 hours later, we're finally about to get into the building. And there was this man in front of us this whole time. He was an Indian man, and middle-aged Indian man in front of us. And all of a sudden, another Indian man and like a Spanish, not teenager, but maybe like a 20-year-old or something, comes on and joins the guy, right, in the line. So I'm like, okay, I'm thinking maybe this guy does a thing where, he was waiting on the line while they were in the car the whole time.
He's a middle-aged Indian TaskRabbit.
Yeah, he's a line holder sort of a thing. So I go, I don't give a shit. And he's talking to them. So we're like, whatever. So then the guy turns back to me and he's like, just to let you know, they're not with me. And Erica and I go like, oh, okay, we're all going in, so it's fine. Basically being like, that moment hits, and then a couple seconds go by, and I go, wait, really? Are they really not with you? And he goes, no, they're not with me. They're trying to cut the line, and like screams that out loud. And he screams it out loud so loud that the other Indian man gets like spooked and walks off the line and walks to the back of his line. Don't say it, what you want to say. That was the tightest pursed lip I've ever seen you do, and good for you for growing.
That's the old me. That's the old me. Moved on, fella. I'm here to tell you, I just got a show on Nickelodeon.
I set that up like leaves over a trap.
How dare you trying to just put a juicy steak in the middle of an empty room that I'm walking into?
So he he goes off the line. Now the other teenage kid is like trying to talk to me and empathize, and he goes, yeah, I didn't know this line was going to be this crazy. I got a midterm today and stuff like that. And I go, but you're not with him? And he goes, no. And I just immediately go, oh, well, no. And just literally move him to the side. I'm like, you're not cutting us. We just waited 2 hours in line. I don't give a fuck about your midterms. So I move him to the side and I move up forward. And then he gets right behind us in the line. Now, here's my question to you, Michael. What would you do in that situation? Because I am now mad that this guy is here. Although Erica's trying to calm me down, and she's like, is it not affecting us?
Yeah.
He's not cutting us. We're still getting there when we got to get there. This is the other people behind you's problem. And I noticed the woman behind me was like a white woman, and she's very was in her phone, was quiet. But then behind,
oh, you've had it harder.
Yeah, but it was like, so I'm getting mad, and I'm like, I don't think she knows. Like, I want to tell her, and there's also like 4 comedically fun, older black women that are in the line behind the white women that have just been like a riot and so fun talking the entire time. And I'm like, if they'd found out that this dude is cutting, just the scene would be totally worth just watching him get eviscerated and kicked off the line. So I'm trying to do a thing where I'm giving eyes to the people. I'm like, who's this guy? I never noticed him, no one's picking up on it. Erica goes, just leave it alone. And I sat there and didn't fucking say anything, but it was driving me crazy. But would it not drive you crazy?
Yeah, of course it would. I also thought this was gonna be that. I thought you were gonna white maestro your way into setting an entire scene of violence amongst people that would do your bidding for you.
Well, that's what I was hoping to do, but Erica, again, that was the plan, but Erica cut me off and she was like, it's not affecting you, and I'm like, you know what, whatever, it is true.
You know what I would have said to that is, well, it's affecting you because I'm ready to divorce you. I'm so mad. Yeah. This is now a dark cloud over my head and I can't focus on any sunshine whatsoever with this.
And I hate that he doesn't have to wait 2 hours like we did. So we get in there and I'm still mad about confidence
of youth.
Yeah. And he just immediately, he was so smart. He just went right back into his phone, stared at his shoes.
Honestly, and I think about the balls that it takes to step in front of you, and then it's just like, well, that spot's filled.
Yeah.
Just moving half a notch right behind. I mean, that's you almost have to tip your cap.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. And I eventually talked to the woman behind me once, we got, inside, and she was like, I had no idea that to that guy. I didn't know what you guys were talking about. She's like, then she was pissed. I'm like, yeah! But
now your day's ruined.
Yeah, it sucks, right? So I go in there, I give this guy, the police officer, my license and everything, and he looks at it and he goes, Astoria? He goes, the only people that are allowed to live in Astoria are Greek people. And I'm like, everybody says that. I go, he's like, or comedians. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, all the stand-up comedians live in Astoria. And I go, I'm a stand-up comedian. And he goes, oh yeah. He looks at my license and does oh yeah. He goes, yeah. He goes, I listen to a ton of comedy podcasts. And I'm like, whatever podcast you listen to, I've been on because I know all the Astoria comics and we've all done each other's podcasts. So you've heard me before at some point. And then he starts doing like, we're just talking about comedy, which is so funny because now like people are going around me in the line. So now people are actually getting in front of me. So I'm like, all right, if I could just take a listen back, and I try to go in and then I go, and this is St. Patrick's Day, by the way. So I go up in to get the shot. I had an officer named O'Leary who was like, couldn't be less excited to be spending his St. Patty's Day giving shots in people's arms. Like he was literally texting on his phone when I walked up and I'm like, hey, how are you? And he just goes...
Probably muttering in between like, I wouldn't if I were you.
Yeah, so he starts swabbing my arm and I'm not a big needle guy. I'm not going to be like, have one of those things where I'm going to pass out, but I like a little bedside manner if possible.
Sure.
So the guy's just in silence, just wiping it and getting ready to plunge it in.
Yeah.
And so I force bedside manner upon him and I go, so how many of these have you done today? And he just goes, a lot.
Yeah.
And I go... how many? And then he just is like, about 100, and then just stabs it into me, which immediately felt like fire down my entire arm, which is a precursor to the next, 24 hours of my life, which was fighting for my life because I got every symptom at like 11 p.m.
Well, could you imagine? Let me empathize with the person giving a shot real quick.
Yeah.
I understand.
He's a police officer, by the way, giving out
hilarious.
shots.
Not trained in that whatsoever,
No.
I'm sure. But I also wouldn't want to make small talk with every single person coming in. The amount of people that are probably trying to, shoot the shit with Officer O'Leary.
Yeah.
It's just like, I did this for the first 20.
Right.
It's like I've expired my social ability.
Well, and people were like, oh, they're like, I heard the other police officers talking to each other in there as they're like, courting people to the line, and they go, how many people do you think outside? And someone's like, I don't know, like probably like 50 people. And it was that thing where I was like, there's like 600 people outside. Like
it's like Kevin with the jelly beans in the office.
Yeah.
It's like 9.
Yeah.
Like you're an accountant.
Yeah. It was unbelievable. And then, I've talked about this, briefly or whatever, but just that, it started at 11 p.m. and it just, what they tell you when you're going to get the vaccine is, hey, you might experience a headache, flu symptoms, aches, chills, fever. What they don't say is you're going to experience all of them in its most extreme form at the same time for 24 uninterrupted hours.
Yeah.
So I felt like death, but I came back the other side of it. And I've never had a sickness where I purposefully was sick and then also knew on the other side of this, I know roughly when it's going to end, which you never know, and also being like, and when it's over, I'm going to be able to do whatever the fuck I want.
And the exciting part is in 6 months, you'll have a tail.
Yeah.
That's when you want to make your Irish goodbye.